I've been thinking about bogs lately. Bogs are a type of wetland with acidic soil. This acidic soil prevents the decay of mosses and grass, and the resulting buildup of dead material forms peat and eventually oil. Bogs are important to archaeology because they provide ideal circumstances for the preservation of a variety of materials. The low oxygen level, coupled with the highly acidic conditions in bogs, causes biological material to be more or less pickled. Many artifacts that do not lend themselves well to preservation can be found in bogs, most notably clothing. Much of what is known about medieval and pre-medieval clothing comes from bog finds. Of particular importance is the bog's ability to preserve leather. Preservation of leather is extremely rare because it requires protection not just from regular rot like most biological material, but also from dry rot. As the oils in a piece of leather evaporate, the leather fibers will gradually contract away from each other, eventually turning the leather into a pile of dust. Fresh leather is so strong that two adult men working together can't tear it. This goatskin, which spent 40 years in a dry basement, I can pull apart like tissue paper. The acidic conditions and low oxygen level of a bog prevent the normal biological decay, while the water itself prevents dry rot. Whenever you see a leather artifact of significant age, odds are pretty good that it came from a bog. I've spoken so far about bogs in a European context. I want to talk about bogs in regards to Canada and First Nations archaeology. Bogs and the muskeg make up about 12% or more of Canada's total surface area. With such a high number, you'd think there would be quite a few archaeological discoveries, but I can't think of one. I've done some thinking about this, and I've come to the conclusion that it's probably because bogs are not a nice place to live. Nobody likes spending their days wading through muck, but in the muskeg it can be quite dangerous. Said muck can be 30 feet deep or more in some places. Moose often get stuck and drown when they wander into the muskeg. Besides the muck, there's the flies. Everyone knows what happens when you leave a bucket of water unattended for too long in summer. Now imagine if everywhere is standing water. Then there's the water itself. Much of it is not good to drink. Some bogs can have good water, but in others the water tastes like vinegar or like crude oil. Then there's the animals, or rather the absence of animals. The deer tend to stay away because they don't want to get stuck. The only fish tend to be minnows because the oxygen-poor soil can't support anything larger. You can't build on a bog, you can't farm a bog, you can't keep a fire going. So by and large, people back in the day avoided them wherever possible. It becomes less a question of why aren't there bog finds in Canada and more of a question of why are there so many bog finds in Europe. Part of it's a question of population density and land ownership. If you got a choice between acidic swamp and something better, you generally take something better, but if you got a choice between acidic swamp and nothing, you might very well take the swamp. The other reason is iron. The chemical conditions in bogs cause the tiny particles of iron suspended in the water to form together in large concretions. These lumps are called bog iron. These have got relatively higher purity than many other forms of iron ore, and they're also a bit easier to obtain than iron ores that you have to mine for. As such, much Iron Age, Dark Age iron comes from bogs. This economic incentive caused people to build settlements near bogs. Some of these settlements grew and persisted long after the original economic incentive had dried up. Among some Iron Age peoples, bogs were seen as sacred, the source of all iron, and as such, some bog finds seem to be left as offerings. In Canada, unlike in Europe, we are not looking at millennia of continued high-intensity use of bogs in a few specific locations. Instead, we're looking for a handful of people who got lost wandering the wilderness across 12% of Canada's surface area. Is it any wonder nothing's been found? Just a thought.